is one of the beautiful aspects of our campaign is we have traveled all over this country. We have just met so many great musicians. Some of them, like Neil and Daryl, are internationally known. Some of them may be known only in their own communities, a small band. But here's my promise to you. If we make it into the White House, what we will do is more than just increase funding for the arts. That's easy. But what we will try to do is integrate the arts into the culture, into who we are as Americans. And that means not only music, but theater, but poetry. We want the arts to be an integral part of defining and understanding who we are as a people. And that is something that I look forward to doing. I don't have to tell anybody that we are living in a very unprecedented and strange moment in the history of our country. We have a president who is in so many ways unfit to be president in terms of the coronavirus, is making a very difficult situation even worse by undermining what the doctors and the scientists are saying. And we got that, so we got the White House. And then we have clearly this coronavirus, which is a pandemic growing in our own country and threatening the well-being of so many of our people. And then on top of that, we have, as a result of the coronavirus, the global economic meltdown. All of that is taking place at the same time. So let me just say a word, about where I think we've got to go. I think in this unusual moment in American and world history, it may be a time to rethink our value system, to rethink many of the systems that we operate under. And one of the great concerns that I have is we live in a moment of unfettered capitalism, where the people on top not only have incredible wealth and power, but we have in this country now a culture which says that it's okay. It's okay for us to exploit working people. It's okay for us to get massive tax breaks when 500,000 people sleep out on the street. It's okay for us to have an inadequate educational system, especially for low-income kids and children of color. That's okay. It's okay for us to be the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all. It's okay for us to be the only major country on earth not to guarantee paid family and medical leave. It's okay for us to have massive levels of income and wealth inequality. Well, you know what? That's not okay. And while we focus right now on making sure that we address as aggressively as we can the coronavirus, and what does that mean? It means all the things you know. It means making sure that everybody is able to get tested who needs to get tested. It means that those results must come out to people as soon as possible. It means that we bulk up our hospital capability, which means that clearly we're going to need more ICU units. We're going to need more ventilators. In fact, we're going to need more medical personnel, and that's an issue that concerns me very much because we're already hearing of doctors who have been made ill by the virus, and they're not going to be able to continue to do their work. And the last thing in the world we need is our frontline defense to be hard hit so that we don't get the health care that we need. So the doctors and the nurses need all of the protective equipment and the knowledge that they need in order to survive this epidemic. But I think when we look at the coronavirus and how poorly prepared we are, and this goes above and beyond Trump, it tells us that we have got to do what every other major country on earth has done, and that is guarantee health care to all people as a human right. Now, a lot of different ideas are coming out from the White House, they're coming out from the Congress, and a lot of people saying, okay, yes, you should be able to get the testing that you need without charge, although God knows how you get the testing, where you get the testing, a lot of confusion about that. But how do people pay for the testing? And then what happens if, God forbid, you are diagnosed with the coronavirus? What happens if you end up in the hospital? How are you going to pay that bill? Or what happens if, you go into the doctor's office, it turns out that you don't have the coronavirus, but you have a serious other virus. So you have the flu, and you're going to be hospitalized or out of work for a while. What happens to you then? Or what happens if, as a result of the stress that so many families in America are feeling right now, somebody needs some psychological help? Who's going to pay for that? And what happens if in the midst of all of this you're diagnosed with cancer? We're going to continue to have, cancer, people coming down with cancer, people coming down with heart disease, people coming down with Alzheimer's. We're going to have all these other illnesses. How do you pay for that? So I would hope that in the midst of this epidemic and the understanding that we are so unprepared for it, and there's so much anxiety upon the parts of the American people in terms of our healthcare system, I would hope, and I know, there is a growing understanding that we need a simple, straightforward, universal, cost-effective system, and that's called Medicare for All. So I'm not here to proselytize on Medicare for All. I think all of you know my views on it. But if there was ever a time when it was so clear that we need to simply guarantee every person in this country the ability to go to a doctor when you need to, not to worry about a hospital bill if you end up in the hospital, now is that time. And again, when people say, what's going to be the cost of Medicare for All, I point out that we're spending twice as much per person on health care as do the people of any other country, some $11,000 for every man, woman, and child. And this principle applies to the pharmaceutical industry. We need right now to make sure that the pharmaceutical industry does not rip off the American people as they develop vaccines and other kinds of treatment. Many of the drugs and the research is being funded by the federal government as it happens. And we will not accept the pharmaceutical industry charging high prices for the vaccines or the other treatment that people need. In fact, we must make sure that all of that treatment in this crisis is available to all people free of charge. Then you got the economy right now. All of you know that the stock market went down by 13% today, a huge drop. All over this country, small businesses now are shutting down, or they're running on very tiny staffs because the business is not coming in. And what we must do in the midst of the economic crisis is develop a very simple principle. And that is that, no, we're not going to just bail out the oil companies. We're not going to bail out the airlines. We're not going to bail out the fossil fuel industry. But we are going to bail out every man, woman, and child in this country. So what our goal must be right now, is it going to be expensive? Yeah, it's going to be expensive, but it is what has to be done. And that is to say to every person in this country, you are Americans, and your government will make you whole. Through no fault of your own, there is now a major, major economic crisis facing this country. You didn't invent the coronavirus. It's not your fault. And as a democratic, civilized society, what we're going to do is protect you. We're going to protect you if you are a single mom right now who is staying home because your child care center is closed. We're going to protect you if you're a small business person who has had to shut down. We're going to protect you if you are a worker in a restaurant who is no longer working. There is no question that millions and millions of workers are going to be impacted by this shutdown, by the economic crisis that we're in and the shutdowns that we are seeing. So our underlying principle is that we must make the American people whole. The bailout must not simply be for the big money interest and the large corporations. It must be for everybody. And that means that no, you're not going to be in a position of defaulting because you lost your job and you can't pay your student debt. You're not going to be in a position of going bankrupt because you can't pay your medical bill. You're not going to be evicted from your home. You're not going to lose, you're not going to be thrown out of your apartment or lose your home. You're not going to lose your business. So the business of the federal government right now is to make sure that we protect every man, woman, and child in this country. And lastly, I would say that at this unbelievably difficult moment where so many people are very, very nervous, and appropriately so, This is a time when we must come together and understand that it's not me and it's not you, it is us. We are all in this together, literally in the sense that if I have the virus, then you're in trouble. When you have the virus, I'm in trouble. But more importantly, to get out of this mess, to get out of this incredibly difficult moment, we are all going to have to work together. And I hope very much that the lesson that we learn is that we must create a healthcare system. We must create an economy that is not simply based on greed and corruption, that it's not an economy which says I can do anything I want to make billions of dollars, and I can step on anybody, and I can lie and cheat and steal. You know, hey, I'm in the pharmaceutical industry, and I don't really care if people can afford the medicine. I'm in the insurance industry. I don't care if people can afford the health care that they need. I'm in the fossil fuel industry. I don't care if I'm destroying the planet. What's important to me is big money, 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 money. And we got to rethink that. Our job, I think, as a nation, as a people, is to figure out how we create a good life for all of us. From the littlest babies, where we don't continue to have the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major country on earth, to our senior citizens, where 20% of them are living in dire poverty, to our veterans, some of whom are sleeping out on the street today, to half the people in this country are working paycheck to paycheck. We've got to rethink things. We have the potential in this country to create a good life for all of our people. And I think in the midst of this terrible crisis, while we have to aggressively address the epidemic, the pandemic of the coronavirus, while we have to aggressively make sure that people are not hurt in terms of the economic decline, we've got to do more than that. We have to prepare for the future, and that is create a society and a government that works well for all of us, not just the few. So let me conclude by saying this, getting back to the politics, you know, this is a political rally, to say I want to thank everybody out there for the kind of incredible support and energy that we have seen throughout. And I want to say a few things where I think our successes are and where our failures are, to be honest with you. What is our success? If you listen to what other candidates are saying, they are saying much of what we said 4 years ago and what we said at the beginning of this campaign. Oh, raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. Of course, that's what we got to do. Well, you know what? 4 years ago, that wasn't what anybody was talking about. We made that happen. Public colleges and universities, tuition-free, canceling student debt. Hey, everybody's talking about that. That wasn't the case. You made that happen. Medicare for all, 4 years ago, an incredibly radical idea. Today, in virtually every exit poll that I have seen throughout this primary, that's what the people want. They understand that health care is a human right, not a privilege. 4 years ago, when we talked about climate change as a national security threat, people thought we were a little bit crazy. Not anymore. They understand it. In terms of our broken and racist criminal justice system, more and more serious discussion about the need to reform that. Immigration reform. People understand that. Gun safety legislation, people understand that. So we have, in many ways, won the ideological struggle. Now, we've got a long way to go, a long, long way to go. And I'm working on that right now as a United States Senator. But take pride in understanding that you, all of us, have kind of transformed what the American people and politicians now think is possible. What is possible, what we're allowed to think about. Got a long way to go, but we have made real progress on that. And the other area where we should be very proud of the success that we have had is that we are winning the generational battle. Now, for whatever reason, and I plead guilty to this, and maybe it's some of my own doings, or lack of doings, we're doing poorly with older people. That's just simply a fact. I got to work on that. Because in truth, the agenda that we have is the strongest agenda for senior citizens in this country. Expanding Social Security, Medicare for all, including home health care and dental care, issues that are very, very important to seniors. But nonetheless, we're not doing well with seniors. But you know where we are doing phenomenally well? Phenomenally well. I'm talking about 70, 80% support among younger people in this country. And it is the younger people who will determine the future of this country. And this younger generation, whether it's young African Americans, young Latinos, young whites, young Asian Americans, young Native Americans. They understand that the future of this country is through a progressive agenda, and they understand it big time. And it really does stun me to what degree the Democratic establishment continues to ignore the needs and the ideas of younger people. And if elected president, by the way, it's not only that we're going to fight for our agenda, we're going to involve young people in the decision-making process in a way this country has never seen before, because this is a great generation. So those are major achievements. We've changed the political dialogue in this country. We are winning overwhelmingly the support of young people. Now, the problem we're running into politically, let me be honest with you, is that for a variety of reasons, which I won't go into now, most people think that Joe Biden is the more electable candidate in terms of defeating Donald Trump. I honestly don't believe that. I think our campaign, which has the energy and the enthusiasm, and we just did a fireside chat the other night. Some of you may have watched it. We had over 2 million people watching that. I mean, that is pretty extraordinary. We are reaching out to people who are non-traditional type voters. Now, to be honest with you, we've had problems getting some of those non-traditional voters to vote in the primaries, but I think they'll be there on Election Day. I don't think that any candidate, any Democratic candidate, can win the election, can defeat Trump, unless young people participate in unprecedented numbers. We are the campaign to do that. We are the campaign, I believe, to reach out to working class people who understand that Trump is a liar and a fraud, who understand that he is part of the establishment, not somebody who is taking on the establishment. So we got a lot of work to do in all of those areas.